I really like that intro video. I made it myself, but I like when that wolf kind of looks at the thing. I loved it when I found that video. All right, so we're going to be talking about aggression and some things you can do. One thing in particular you can do to help your dog's behavior inside the home. And wow, I'm a little bit short here. Sorry about that. One of my kids must have lowered my seat. And so this has been my life for 30 or 40 years in dealing with dogs. I've trained police dogs since, gosh, I hate to tell you this, since the late 80s. And it has carried on. And of course, it started with police dogs first and then went into pet dog training, all this other kind of stuff. Falco Canine Academy has been known for training some of the worst dogs on the planet. And strangely enough, have only had to really consider euthanizing a handful of dogs, maybe 3 or 4 that I can remember, there was just nothing we can do. So we're going to be talking about that. So we have a long history with dog aggression. It never stops as far as people stopping me wherever I'm at and asking about dog aggression. I have a sign on the back of my truck that says Falco Canine Academy. So whether I'm at the gas station, grocery store, somebody, hey, I got to ask you something. We got something going on. Or my neighbors walking by, we have this thing going on. Or on Facebook or Instagram, somebody sends me a message. Hey, I noticed you're in the dog business. What do you know about this kind of stuff? So over the last couple of weeks, it's just really been a wave of people asking me about dog aggression. So I thought it'd be important to talk about some of those things that we talked about, just to add them to the world. And of course, promote our dog training in Orange County. We have a great set of trainers at Falco Canine Orange County with Aldo and Gina and the rest of the team. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. So it would be great to see you if it's something that you would need some help with. Hey, Amy, nice to see you. If you are watching, please comment. Please say hi. Tell me where you're watching from. Ask any questions you might have. If you actually want to come on the show with a video and a mic and join me, and we'll be side by side on the show, feel free to send me a message, and I will send out the link so you can join me. You just have to make sure that your camera and mic are connected properly, and then I'll add you to the show, and we'll have a conversation about dog aggression. More than happy to do that. Before we do that, let me get to a couple sponsors, which is really important that I do, because this is one way that we make a living, right? Is by doing these live broadcasts. I have a training program that will teach you how to do live broadcasting. So those of you that are dog trainers that may be watching, they're in the lurking around and just watching, you may want to enter into my training program that teaches you how to do what I'm doing now. It doesn't have to be in a classroom. I could actually have a second camera, and I've done this, you've probably seen it, where I have a second camera outside, and I will leave this position after teaching either on the whiteboard or doing something, and then I go outside with the dog and give you some examples of what I've been talking about. So you could do that. I'm going to teach you how to do that in this training program. So go to joinmelive.live. Right now, the basic program is the one that's up right now. I'm working on an intermediate program, and that will be done shortly. So the basic program is $4.99. Very cheap. Just get you started. And I'm using StreamYard right now. So you're going to want to get StreamYard. Go to getstreamyard.live. And there's a free version that you can begin to work with and get to know as you are going through the program. I'm going to teach you how to use that. All right. And then one other one I'm going to show you right now. And then later on, I got 3 more I'll show you, or 2 more I'll show you. But Happy Coffee. Happy Coffee is a great beverage. They also have something called Zest, and it is fantastic. I've lost probably, I haven't been able to weigh because they closed the gyms on me today or the other day. And now I don't have a scale. I don't have a scale here at my home. And so at the last time I looked, I lost about 15 pounds. Using Happy Coffee and the Zest, and it's been great. I do intermittent fasting, and the weight just seems to be falling off. All right, so let's go ahead and get to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today. Who else is joining? Hey, Sharon, nice to see you. And Barbara Mendez. Oh my God, I was just talking to Tony about how well behaved your kids are, and I said, of course, he's a dog trainer. Kind of saying, yes. I, you know what? You may or may not. This is my cousin Barbara. May or may not know this, Barbara, but I use the children in a lot of examples of when I'm talking about people in regard to training in their dog. It is a relationship, just like a relationship with your kids. And the way that kids need to look at you as the God, that everything belongs to you. Same thing with dogs. Dogs need to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, we'll probably touch on some of this as I go through some of the things I wrote out that I want to make sure and talk about. Hey, Gina, nice to see you. Gina, I was just talking about you. Nice to see you, talking about how you are a fantastic trainer and an asset to Falco Canine and all the things that you're doing out there. And so this is the person you're going to talk to, right? And when you're ready to get going with some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. All right, so let me go ahead and go to my show flow for this. But one thing I want to talk about is that aggression has many forms and causes. And so when some people come to me, they just say, they think, not everybody, but quite often many people just say, my dog's aggressive. Okay. And I don't give them that look. Inside, I'm doing that. But on the outside, I'm going, well, when does the dog become aggressive? What is the thing that happens prior to the aggression? Well, when I go to feed the dog, if I put the food down and then try to move it, then he bites me or growls at me or what have you. Okay, well, the dog has food aggression. When people come to the house, the dog, seems to be okay when they come in the house. And then when the person tries to leave, the dog bites them when the person's trying to leave. Okay, I got that. When children are riding by on skateboards, my dog becomes crazy aggressive and all these kinds of things. So you see, these are all different things that are causing the aggression. Now, what is causing the aggression could be another, something entirely different that you're not even aware of. And we need to look at that too. But I just want you to understand that right now, one of the most important questions every trainer, especially at Falco Canine Academy, is will ask you, what is it that leads to that aggression? What happens first? Is it almost always when you're on leash? Is it in the house? Is it around food? Is it around possessions like toys? Or maybe children that have a toy that's very similar to something that the dog likes. Or maybe the toy makes a loud noise that the dog doesn't like, right? And all these kinds of things. And so we have to really look at those things. So in the instance of somebody who messaged me on Facebook the other day, and I'm going to address this I may be jumping ahead. Oh, no, it's actually the third one. And so good, I'll be hitting this one. So somebody contacted me on Facebook and said, I thought this, I can't remember exactly. I should actually have pulled up the question, but it had to do with a young Belgian Malinois. So she said, we have this young Belgian Malinois that I know of. It's either a neighbor's or a friend's, or they know of the dog somewhere, and the dog has aggression. And I want to take on the dog, and I'm wondering, what you think, if this is something that I should do. And then, of course, my next question is, do you have any kids? And the answer was yes, and they're young. All right, so they got young kids, a Belgian Malinois that has aggression. And then of course the question was, what do you know what causes the aggression? What is it that happens then the dog becomes aggressive? I stuck my hand out the other day to pet the dog, and the dog growled and bit me, and it wouldn't let go. It was like a really, and sometimes I call that true aggression, right? That would be on the signs of true aggression. Most dogs bite and release, right? Most dogs growl and not bite. Most dogs bark really loud, and then when you approach them, then they back up and get behind the handler. All right, so there's all these different kinds of aggression, but when a dog actually bites and grabs hold and sometimes shakes their head and doesn't want to let go and actually comes towards you, I call that is aggression. That is true aggression, and so that is a definite not a good thing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you what that is. Actually, I'm going to go to my third one. I'm going to skip the second one. That true aggression. Oh, well, hold on. Let's not talk about that. And so true aggression, I saw a red flag. So true aggression, when a dog does that, that is a red flag. I saw a red flag and thought for a minute I had put something else. And so that alone is a red flag. All right. So I like to use red flags. I'm divorced twice, and there were some red flags when I was dating my future wives, and there were some red flags. And sometimes we ignore those. I don't know why, but we tend to ignore them. And sometimes we ignore them in dogs, right? We go, the dog bit me, and I'm going to and I really want to help this dog. And well, that's number one red flag, is that true aggression is highly problematic. It's not good. And so the next one, well, how old is the dog? Well, the dog's only about 6 to 7 months old, something like that. Okay. Red flag number 2. So this dog has 2 red flags. I would say the third red flag is a Belgian Malinois. All right. So I would say this dog already has 3 red flags. That is a lot. That would be too many red flags. When I look back at what I should have seen in my marriages is a no-go zone, but I ignored the 3 red flags and did it anyway. The good news is I got some great kids, right? But in a dog, it can be very dangerous. Sorry, I may be going too far. All right. Hey, Larry, nice to see you. The knife guy from Baltimore. My son is an Australian cattle dog. I get to keep her on Thursdays. She likes to attach to someone when he is gone. Okay, I get you. Hopefully not attack. Last week it was me. Attack or attach? I want to make sure that I'm understanding that right. And Gene always laughs at me because I say things that are just totally inappropriate, but they fit, right? We have these red flags in our life that we see and we ignore. And sometimes we, as the dog trainer, that's why I said you better be ready, because I may say things that you will not like to hear. And when you begin to add up those red flags, you may want to rethink what you're planning on doing or hoping to do. That you're going to get into a place where it's just too many red flags, and this may be an unfortunate situation. So going back to my banners here, they're called banners. When we see a Belgian Malinois with true aggression, and in other words, aggression where they come at you and hold on and sometimes even push into you, that means that they are probably not afraid of you. It is not defensive in the sense that they're just trying to get you to go away. They actually are attacking you. And then again, like I said, you see this in a very young dog, a puppy. It is not good, right? Just like young children. Here we go with the children correlation, and that is young children are for the most part playful, right? They just want to have fun, right? And they giggle and laugh, and sometimes they're very easy to giggle. Sometimes they're very easy to scare too, right? And so you have young dogs. So a dog that bites out of fright that's a puppy. That is not necessarily a red flag. That is a dog that now needs socialization, needs environmental training. And that could often be overcome with time and patience and that kind of stuff. When you have a puppy with true aggression who's trying to attack you, that is not the same thing. Am I making sense here? So when we begin to look at these things, that's why it's important to understand what happens prior to the dog biting you, and then in many cases, and I think the next question would be, what happens after the dog bites you? Does the dog hang on? Does the dog just barely nip at you and then leave and bail and get behind something? Is the growl high pitched, or is it deep and guttural? Right, high pitch is frightful. Right, I work with cops, unfortunately, that they would get on the radio and they would get in just a barely high stress situation, just barely high stress, and I need another officer. And I go, wow, what's happening? Well, he's he's calling for a tow truck. What? I thought he was in a shooting. Right? Just getting on the radio for this cop is stressful. Like you got a little bit of fear, right? And you can tell through the voice, right? It's same thing with a dog. A dog who's like, "Well, you are big, you are scary, your voice, your whatever," and they're scared, but the growl is like, "Rawr!" Right? It's high pitched. Not in all cases, but in many cases, that's telling you the dog is fearful. Fear can often be overcome with environmental training, socialization, rewarding the dog for showing strength. Never reward a dog for showing weakness. We do that quite often. I'll probably get to that just a little bit. And I'm hoping I'm not going to come off the rails here, because I have a really good chance of coming off the rails, because there's so many fingers, right? So many different things that we can go into in regard to aggression. I'm going to try very hard not to get too much into the weeds, but I'm just trying to explain to you that when you have fearful aggression, that's not necessarily a horrible thing. That we just have to identify what the dog is fearful of, and now teach the dog not to be fearful of that thing. Seems easy, right? Not always, but sometimes it can be. Environmental training, socialization, rewarding for strength, not rewarding for weakness, is a path to getting to some sense of success. All right. So let me go back to my number 2 thing. First, what we want to do is rule out medical issues. So whether the dog has, true aggression, fearful aggression, leash aggression, possession aggression, whatever aggression that your dog has, we want to make sure that there's nothing going on in regard to medical issues. Arthritis, bad hips, hip dysplasia, spondylosis, heart murmurs, digestive issues that are going on, where the dog just cannot keep food in, is constantly having diarrhea. How happy are you when you have diarrhea? Not very happy, right? You're kind of angry, especially when it's consistent and you can't seem to get rid of it. When you have digestional issues going on, where you can't keep anything in you for a long period of times and it turns into water, you, like many people, are kind of cranky. What do you think a dog is going to be when they have the same kind of issue? They're going to be kind of cranky. Do they have skin issues, hot spots, Ear infections, right? Ear infections. You can't go near a dog that has an ear infection. You hit that ear and the dog will bite you because that hurts, right? And so first thing we want to do, and this is one of the things that is often skipped over. We used to do it in canine training, police dog training all the time, where they would come to me with training issues. They believed like my dog is not biting on the sleeve firmly enough, and he's holding on with the front of his teeth, or he's not biting at all, or the dog is now biting everybody. He used to be kind of sociable. Now he's biting everybody. And the first thing we would sometimes try to go to the training field and now try to work it out. We'd get our sticks out and our electronic collars and our pinch collars and our choke chains. And we'd go, oh, we got to do all this stuff to get the dog to stop doing whatever it's doing. And then somehow along the way, we find out, oh, the dog has a chipped tooth. Oh, let's get that looked at. You solved the chipped tooth. Now the behavior is gone. Like, oh, we just spent 4 days pulling the dog off the street, when if we would have just simply taken the dog to the veterinarian, we would have saved ourselves all this problem. And the dog saved the dog a lot of grief. The dog's going, hey, dudes, I was trying to tell you my tooth is hurting me, and you're over here correcting me and taking me through all this obedience stuff and doing all this extra crap. And hey, I was just trying to tell you it was my tooth. Take me to the vet, get my tooth fixed. Gosh darn it! And so, look at the medical issues. Rule it out. Take the dog. Especially if a dog that wasn't aggressive and then is suddenly aggressive. Let's take the dog to the vet. Let's run a panel do a blood panel. Let's have maybe if you see the dog limping, the vet will say, hey, take the dog's paws and then turn them so that the top of the paws are on the ground and see what the dog does. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Ear check, eye check, nose check, digestive system. Bring in some poop and see what's going on. Rule it all out and say, okay, now this is a potential training issue that we need to work on. All right, so take out the medical aspects of it. Danny GS Rock, hey, nice to see you. I was thinking that was Danny Grokey or something like that. That guy's a Christian singer. That's what I thought you were writing at first. She is very skittish until she gets to know you. Okay, yeah. So that can be a fear-based issue with that dog, not to say, Larry, that your son did anything wrong or anything like that. Some dogs are just born with skittishness. If the mother, while pregnant, gets frightened by something, it is believed that energy, that enzymes, that issue is often fed to the puppies while they're in the womb. And so if you have a very aggressive breeder who yells at all the dogs, which I've seen, right? They get in there, and they're just breeding dogs, right? They could care less. Bam, and they crash the gates when they put the dogs in the kennels, and they kick the buckets at the dogs when they're barking too much and throw crap at, right? We know this goes on. Again, I didn't tell you this was going to be a fun and interesting, or a fun and friendly type of talk. I'm telling you, be ready for some stuff, right? And so some dogs come from a history of mental and even sometimes physical abuse. If the dog's in utero, right? If the puppies are inside the mom, it is believed that fear is fed into the puppies, and they can be born with a automatic fear based on whatever the mom experienced during the pregnancy. And so that skittishness, addressing Larry's issue there, again, could be that the dog was born with skittishness, and that is thing. It may not necessarily be genetic, but it is one of those things that tends to happen. This is something that has been talked through with some trainers that I know of, and we've talked about it, all the time. We like the dogs to come from healthy experiences where the parents come through with a loving breeders, people who love the dog and take care of the dog. Your tendency to have good, solid puppies, not only from good, solid parents, but from a good experience during the pregnancy in regard to the mom. The puppies are more likely to come out very strong and confident. And of course, you're always going to have the alpha and the the other dogs that are fall a little bit lower on the ranking and the rung. So, but your chances are better when the mother has a good pregnancy and good experience. So that could be it. The other thing is maybe the dog just didn't get enough socialization or environmental experience as the dog was being raised as a puppy. A lot of people don't know that, right? They get a puppy. The one thing they're always fearful of is when dogs aren't given their immunizations, is that now they don't take the dog anywhere, and now they fall into a bad habit of not taking the dog anywhere, right? And so you have a dog that's gets used to the home surroundings or the backyard, or a combination of the house and the backyard, where that is all they know. Right? There's hardly any ever noise. Maybe nothing has ever fallen off a shelf and scared them. Perhaps nothing, like you don't have any trains that go by, or not a lot of vehicle traffic or something like that, or kids riding by on skateboard. And then suddenly, after a year and a half or 2 years, you now take them to a park, or you take them outside for a walk, and now they're like, "Rah!" They're going, "What the hell's going on?" It's like taking whatever, Tarzan out of the jungle and into New York City, and now he's like, "What the hell? What is going on?" There's loud noise. I can't stand it, right? You got this dog now that's going, "What the hell's going on?" And they can't tell you what the hell is going on, or ask you what the hell is going on. They just kind of go, "Shh, I need out of here because this is way too noisy. There's too much going on." And now you're acting weird. Now the human being who's attached to that leash is now acting fearful. Like, "What are you doing, dog?" And now it just turns into a big, gigantic snowball of fear and aggression. And we did that because the dog accidentally was not socialize. So how do you do that? And there's a much longer explanation there, Larry. But whatever that dog is fearful of, you need to find whatever it is the dog loves and add that to the experience when the dog is put into that situation. So if that dog is put into a situation where it's going to be skittish, you're going to need to begin to work on setting the dog up. So I'm just going to use this as an example. So let's say that, let's using you as an example. For the first time, your son's saying, "Hey, I got this dog. The dog's kind of skittish, especially around meeting new people. Can you have whatever it is the dog loves?" So if the dog loves, dried liver treats, yes, son, dried liver treats, have those. And then when I bring the dog over, that's the first thing I want the dog to experience. When the dog comes to your pad, have those liver treats available, and I just want you to hand the dog one of those treats, or drop it on the ground. If the dog won't even come near you, right? Sometimes fear causes the dog not to be hungry, so you may need to have it on the ground at the entry of the door, so the first thing the dog finds is one of those liver treats. This is just an example. That first experience of stepping foot in the home is finding something that the dog loves, not finding something the dog fears. You see what I'm saying? So, and then you repeat until the dog now goes, "Man, I love going over to Larry's house. Every time I walk in, there's a liver treat on the ground." All right. And at some point, that liver treat's not there. The next place that liver treat is found is somewhere else. The next time that liver treat is found is in Larry's hand. The next time that liver treat is given is after the dog has been there for 5 to 10 minutes. The next time that liver treat is given is when the dog has been there for an hour. And then you give maybe 5 or 6 and say, "Wow, you are fantastic. You walked in, your tail was wagging, you showed confidence, and you showed strength. And now I'm going to give you the mother load of dried liver treats." And now the dog goes, "Wow, this place is fantastic." Maybe the next place is just like that, right? And then you continue and repeat, and that's kind of how you go through those things. I'm sorry, I left it. This has nothing to do with medical issues. I left it up there by accident. All right. So I already talked about puppies. So that the red flag in regard to this Belgian Malinois, and let me just address what I ended up, and we didn't finish this discussion. I just said, I think that you should employ me or Gina or Aldo to join you on an evaluation with that dog so that we can help you make a good decision. You've got kids. And again, my job is not to make money off of people that put themselves in peril. That is not our job. I will tell people, as much as I would love to have a long-term relationship where they're paying us money every week or every month or what have you, I'm a businessman, right? And as long as I'm helping, I'm happy to do that. I want to make sure that we are giving a result and over deliver while they're paying us for something that they truly want, as opposed to saying, "Yeah, go ahead, get that Malinois." And if you have any issues, call us, right? And you know what they're going to do. They're going to call, because I can already tell you that you have an 8-month Belgian Malinois. If you don't know what a Belgian Malinois is, it is essentially just simply a police dog. Now, again, people are going to go, I have a nice Belgian Malinois, and it's super friendly and it's sweet and it never would hurt anybody. Okay, good. But Belgian Malinois make great police dogs because they're strong, they bite hard, they're major a-holes when you want them to be, and they don't get hurt very often, not like German Shepherds. German Shepherds got, it's a little hot out, right? Belgian Malinois, I could care less, when they go out, right? And so Belgian Malinois are just a different breed. And so you have this dog, this Belgian Malinois, who's already shown you that it's aggressive by biting your hand and not letting go. You had to pry the dog's mouth off the hand in order to get you to go, showing true aggression. And it's only 6, 7, 8 months old. So that's a lot of red flags. So in the end, like there's still a reason why you may want to evaluate and have us evaluate, is that maybe there was something missed. Maybe there was something else that happened and you didn't see it, and you could be totally wrong. That happens all the time, by the way. Gina probably can attest to that people will call you and give you a scenario about what happens and a bunch of information. And then when you see the dog, you go, wow, that is nothing. That is nothing like you told me, right? This is completely different, right? So we often get that. And it's not because they're trying to fool us. People love their dogs and they want to describe them in the best light. It's kind of like your children. Sometimes you don't want to say your children are assholes. You sometimes say, yeah, I got great kids. They got a lot of energy, right? And they really, they're strong-willed, right? Those are always good words. It's like, she's got a great personality, right? It's kind of like that, where you go, oh, okay, that's not what I expected. Same thing with the dog. You get all this stuff, and then you get the dog, and you go, oh, no, that's not what you said. I would tell you I don't know if it's more often, but I would say it's about 50-50. It's one way or the other, right? Some people come to me and say, my dog is so aggressive, I'm afraid he's going to kill somebody. The dog is just, oh my God, right? And I see the dog and I go, no, your dog's fine. We'll get you through this. This is really easy. Your dog is not going to kill somebody. I promise. This dog is really nice, right? We get that. And then you got the other ones. Well, the dog is, he just kind of nips. It's really not that big of a deal. And then the dog gets there and goes, and you're going, no, hold the dog back. Shut the door. You just said the dog kind of nips. That's not a dog that kind of nips. So we have one or the other. So it's kind of interesting. And so the evaluation, back to my point. So sorry. Back to my point is that I think it's important to not just take, a comment or a messenger message, whether it's audible or typed written, without saying, if you truly want to see and have our opinion about this dog, it's probably best that we meet. And it's a couple $100 for a full evaluation. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but that may be something that we can do for you if you really want to try. And I think it's important, especially when you have young kids and you're bringing a dog that's already bit you into your house. I mean, we want to make sure that we keep the kids safe. So super important. All right. Wow. I hope I didn't beat that up so much that everybody just left. The numbers are still pretty much the same that I'm seeing on my counter. So I think we're okay. All right. Aggression in some breeds must be addressed by professionals who know what they are doing. And that's kind of like the Belgian Malinois. Of course, we have to talk about, pit bulls, and they have all the other names, right? The 5 other different types of pit bulls that they give, Staffordshire Terrier, all the other names that they give pit bulls, whatever it is, whatever that bully breed is that you have. If you're seeing aggression, you got to understand that there are some breeds that you better get a professional, because they are funky. Some of these aggression issues, and man, the pit bulls, I love them, but man, oh man, I did a show. Cesar Milan and I did a show together called "Love My Pit Bull," and of course, now that I was on that show, and he and I were talking to each other, and I was we were doing the show together, following the show. Now I was flooded with pit bull customers, and for the most part, we were able to help people with all their pit bulls. So there was this one pit bull that had been going from rescue to rescue, that people were just simply, this dog was so nasty aggressive, and yet nobody wanted to make the decision that the dog should be euthanized, and it just nothing was going to get in the way of trying to get this dog to work. So of course we get the call, bring, hey, we got this dog, and he's super aggressive, but we think you can fix the dog. So the dog comes, and it was a nightmare. The dog, like many dogs, the first week or two, super nice. That happens a lot. It is not unusual. And let me give you this a bit of information too, is that when you rescue a dog from a shelter or rescue, in most cases, for the first week or two, you're going to see a really friendly dog, because most dogs, in the case of aggression, don't show that aggression often for the first week or two. It sometimes comes later, once they've now taken the land, being your home or your backyard, as theirs. And then you see that type of aggression, or possessions, or locations in the house they've deemed theirs. Right? You have dogs that have taken possession of a particular position underneath the table. Right? That's their cave, and then you go to get them out of that underneath, and they bite you. Right? And that is it could be a thing, it could be the table, it also could be a location inside the home, and these things come up. So the first 2 weeks or so, you may not see it. So this is one of those situations where the pit bull comes. We've been hearing all these horrible stories about how the dog is super aggressive, and the dog actually shows, waggy tail. Take the dog out by leash. I walk the dog around, blah, blah, blah. All right. And I know well enough to know that doesn't mean the dog is friendly. It just means that here he is at a new location, and maybe for a week or two, we may see something. So we need to give it time. And then sure enough, we couldn't get the dog out of the kennel. The dog, like horrible, nasty eyes and snarl, and biting on the chain link, like trying to come through the chain link to get you. That is true aggression, right? Most dogs that are aggressive in a kennel are at the door barking until you open the door, and then they go to the back of the kennel. Right? They know that barrier is there, but once you approach that gate and begin to open it, they begin to back up. That's what most dogs do. That are in that kind of aggression, kennel aggression. Not like this dog, where when you go to hit the lever, now the dog's trying to get through the chain link to bite you in the hand. I mean, really trying to eat through the chain link fence. Trying to eat through the chain link fence to get to you. Blood's coming out. And so in order to clean the kennel, we had to move the kennel, clean the ground underneath the kennel, and then move the kennel back. That's kind of the situation we were in. We tried a bunch of different things. I'd go into the kennel with a bite suit, and stand there with the dog and try to wait for the dog to show signs of becoming nice. And then when he did, I would give him some food. We did that for a couple days, but the dog almost never stopped trying to bite, ever. And so at some point, we just got to say, okay, this is enough. This dog's, what can you do with a dog like that? Even if we were to slightly fix it or make it somewhat better, then who do you give the dog to? Right? They go, well, you can just keep. No, I'm not keeping that. I got 5 kids. Well, at the time I had 3. I had 3 kids. Right? And there's nothing I can do. Right? And so this story has a point. So you have this breed, and the dog is showing no signs of improvement whatsoever. And we've tried all of our best techniques that have worked 99.9% of the time with every other aggressive dog, and nothing as a matter of fact, it's getting worse. Right? We try different things in a manner that doesn't, increase the aggression, because there's things you can do that will increase the aggression. This is just what this dog was. And so I tell the people, I said, listen, this dog the dog has to be euthanized. And it's not my dog, and I don't want to do it. And I think the people who are spearheading this dog's existence needs to meet me somewhere and be responsible for euthanizing this dog. I don't feel that it's my responsibility, because it's not my dog, right? And they said, screw you, you're an asshole, and called me a bunch of names and said, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, then fine. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm telling you this dog is dangerous, and I need you to know that this dog is dangerous. And I think we even wrote up some paperwork. I'm going back several years. And so we got the paperwork, and they signed it. I told you this dog is aggressive. They signed off that this dog is aggressive. And so they take the dog to somebody else. This is like the dog's 4th or 5th trainer. And it wasn't 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I get pictures sent to me where the person that they took it to, the lady lost 3 of her fingers on her hand because the dog ate the fingers. So that's the story. That's the end of the story. You have to understand that aggression in some breeds must be addressed by professionals who know what they are doing. And then you must also listen to those professionals. That's the end of that part of it right there. Okay. Do you understand that you have a dog like a Belgian Malinois, some German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Pit Bulls, Dalmatians, Chows, Akitas. These are all breeds that when they show signs of aggression, you're dealing with something that's not like a Labrador Retriever necessarily. Now, I've seen some nasty Labrador Retrievers. However, it's not the same. It is not. I'm telling you, it is not the same. Please, you got to trust me. I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and there are some breeds that you need to have a professional. I'm promising you, please don't ignore this, that need to help you, and the professional needs to know what they're doing and have a history as long as ours to help you with that type of breed, or else they're going to make it worse. They are going to make it worse if they're using electronic collars. I am telling you, electronic collars are fantastic tools in the right hands of people and used in the right manner. They are fantastic tools, and in the hands of people that do not know what they're doing, that they only know one way of using it, you're in trouble. Because in aggression training, you are going to make your problem worse. Understand me that. Pinch collar on a very aggressive dog used in the wrong manner at the wrong time will make your problems worse. Choke chain used on an aggressive dog in some of these breeds can make your problem worse. A flat collar on one of these kinds of dogs used in the wrong manner can make your problem worse. Am I making my point? That you got to understand what you're doing, or else you're going to make the problem worse. I hope that all made sense. All right, let me look at some comments here and see how I'm driving people crazy. I have a leash aggressive Shih Tzu. And so, yeah, so those are dogs in regard to a leash aggressive Shih Tzu. Is that one of those breeds that we probably, will use a different tack than we would one of those other breeds. A Shih Tzu, again, quite often because of their size, and not always. I don't want anybody ever to say that I'm using always and never. I hate those two words. I try in dog training. I stay away from those words. But my first thought in regard to a Shih Tzu is, in many cases, it's fear-based. And if you crack that nut in regard to the fear that is causing the dog to be aggressive, then you can have some success. And in regard to a Shih Tzu, and a leash aggressive Shih Tzu, is that the leash being handled by Heather is causing the aggression. And we see this all the time. This may be one of the most common things. And again, Gina, if you are $85 for eval, thank you so much. For aggression, and for me to do it, I charge a little bit more. And it's not anything, this because it's different. And I just want you to know. But in most cases, most of our evals are $85. Thank you, Gina, for putting that. I just want to make sure that when you come to me and say my dog is eating people, and I need you, Andy, to come and look at it, it's a slightly different price, because we're going to do some stuff that we wouldn't do in the normal evaluation. It might be slightly different. All right. And so back to, shoot, I lost it. There it is. Back to the leash aggressive Shih Tzu. And again, Gina, you may want to correct me if I'm wrong, because the leash aggression is the message that the dog is hearing or feeling. Hearing in the sense that it's getting the senses down the leash. It's like a what used to be called a telephone line. If you are in your 20s, you probably don't know what a telephone line is. All right, so you got a message being sent from your hand, Heather. That message is being sent to that leash, telling the dog that you need to be aggressive now. Mom is ordering you to become aggressive now. In Heather, in your mind, you're saying, please don't be aggressive. But in the signal that you're sending is be aggressive. The dog's not hearing don't, right? There's something that you may be doing. And I would tell you, in most cases, that is what's happening in regard to leash aggression, is that you, through whatever it is you're doing, pulling back on the leash, slowing your gait when you're walking, you're going from a normal gait to a slowed gait, that will tell the dog to be aggressive, and the dog can feel that in the leash. The wrapping the leash around the hand, if you're doing that wrapping part is telling the dog to become aggressive. Those are words to a dog of please be fearful, aggressive, and get this whatever's approaching, whatever it is, and become aggressive. And so that is typically what it is we see in these kinds of situations when it comes to small dogs and leash aggression. All right, so very easily addressed and fixed, because we have to work on you. Well, that's not the easy part. The dog's usually easier than the human, but that's usually what we got. And then something about the bed. I'm not sure about the bed. If it is, it's that sometimes a dog has taken position on this bed, and then even if you're married, right? If you're married or boyfriend or whatever, or you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, and the dog has taken, you may or may not have to be part of the equation. It could be that the dog has just taken possession of the bed, and the dog then begins to choose who it wants in that bed. If it likes mom a little bit better, then mom, you can come in. I'm not going to growl at you. But dad comes, right? But also sometimes it can be the combo. Both you and the bed have become the dog's possession. And now when dad comes, you know, after, you know, work or whatever, late at night, goes to come, right? Because what happens quite often when that happens, dad takes the dog and tosses it off the bed, right? It only has to happen a couple of times and the dog becomes more aggressive because the dog's going, oh, every time dad comes in here, he yells at me, he pushes me off the bed, he grabs me by the scruff and takes me out and puts me outside and then shuts the door, right? And so that kind of that aggression or that fear or that resentment builds up over repetition of the dog getting kicked out of the room by the other person. So I'm not sure if that's what your question was, Heather, but sometimes those of you that have had this issue, because I've been approached by, my dog is aggressive, but only in the bed. And when you know, Fred comes in, he tries to bite Fred. Well, let's talk about what's happened leading up to this point where the dog has actually bit Fred. Well, you know, it used to be the dog was fine. And then, you know, then he started, you know, kicking the dog off the bed. And then the dog goes, oh, you know, I'm not getting kicked off anymore. And so do you see how these things build up? And quite often we create them. And that type of aggression is much different than the first type of aggression I was talking about. All right, let me look through a couple of these things and I'll go back to my presentation because this is going to be a long one. We're already at 42 minutes and I've not even got halfway through my stuff. Mine doesn't go on the bed when you were talking about rescues. Not sure what that is. Oh, yes, that's correct. Okay. Yeah. So, oh yeah, wrapping. See, could have guessed. All right, you know, myself and Gene have been doing this for a while. So these are the things. These are the things that happen. And so I'm not sure if I'm helping you, but there is what we have to do is now address what it is that you're not. We need you to stop doing that. Right? We need you to start walking with confidence. We need you to start not pulling back on the leash. When the dog goes to become aggressive, we now go into what's called some type of obedience mode. So when somebody's approaching that normally the dog would bark at, now you get the dog to sit. So now instead of trying to walk past something the dog hates, because it's really hard to walk past something the dog hates because the dog's pulling and now you're tripping and now you're trying to stay balanced and now you're trying to stay in control. And now it's making the problem worse, right? Because you're trying to move with the dog that's being aggressive and pulling on the leash. Instead, what we tell people is to stop when you ahead of time, right before it becomes a problem in your walk, where the person's at a distance. I'm just using that this as an example, is that when you see that person, you pull off into a driveway or onto the grass or somewhere, or even across the street, and to tell the dog to sit. These are all examples that your dog may be different. Your situation might be different, but get the dog into a sit position where now you're using obedience to control the dog's behavior and mind. And now every time now the dog breaks the sit, you put the dog back into a sit as opposed to fighting the dog on the leash and that kind of stuff. And then only pet the dog or tell the dog that's being good when it's sitting and being quiet and not growling. Rewarding the positive strength behavior, not rewarding the negative bad behavior, which is in most cases what you would do with a small dog is you pick the dog up. And so stop being aggressive, right? And stop being aggressive. You see you're rewarding bad behavior. I could do that all day long. All right. So we got that. Sometimes aggression is best addressed through the stomach. And you heard me talk earlier about the pit bull, that we use a method of feeding the dog when the dog is good. Very cool. Aldo may be one of the best guys in the business. Aldo being one of our trainers over at Falco K9 Orange County, and he and I worked on this years ago. And it can be a solution. We actually called it the Onyx Program back in the day because we had a black German Shepherd named Onyx who was super aggressive, just nasty. True aggression, and then enhanced by the owner that he had because the owner, waited a long time. The dog was almost a year old and had developed this aggression to become very, very strong and was being rewarded for that type of aggression. So we had to come in and we used the food. The dog didn't eat unless the dog was showing calmness. And after a few months of this type of training and being consistent, teaching the handler how to do it, we had the dog for 4 weeks. I can't remember how long of this training, right? The dog only ate when the dog showed calmness and no fear and no anger and no aggression, and he would eat. And we would give him his full amount of food that he needed for that day when he showed calmness and confidence and wasn't aggressive. And we continued that for 2 to 4 weeks. I can't remember how long with that particular dog. And then we gave it to the handler, told the handler to do the same thing. The dog only eats when he's showing calmness, and take the dog out and put him in positions to fail. And when he fails, the dog doesn't eat. You take away the food, you put the dog back, put him in the kennel, the dog doesn't eat. Take the dog back out, try it again. The dog shows strength, and you give the dog some food. And this is not, I'm not telling you to do this. It would take a professional like one of us to teach you how to do this properly, because the last thing you want to do is starve a dog. We don't promote starving a dog. The dog has to eat, but you have to put the dog in position so that he can eat. All right. If your dog is aggressive at a couch, right, in the house, then you got to get the dog out of the house. Right. What I'm saying is you got to put your dog in positions to succeed, so that the dog can be rewarded, and then the dog can continue on. The most important part of training is not the correction. Now, I'm not against correction, but that's not the most important part of dog training. The most important dog training is the reward. The most important part of dog training is the reward. And I'm not talking about a reward-based only training either, right? You have to get the dog to the point where the dog does something right so that you can get to the reward. Understand? Sometimes a correction to get the dog to get into the behavior so that you can give the reward is a solution. But at some point, the dog has to make the choice to be rewarded, and then the dog gets rewarded. This dog named Onyx was able to go back to the home. A neighbor who was extremely fearful of this dog, I'd never met the neighbor before. The neighbor went out of his way to bring his family to one of our training days, which is a Saturday over at Greenbrier Park. I remember it like it was yesterday. The neighbor brought his wife and his kids to the park and said, I wanted to meet the guy who trained my neighbor's dog not to be so aggressive. And he came there to meet Aldo and I, and Aldo did most of the work, but we came, it was my company. So we came over, and the guy just wanted to come and say thank you. He doesn't have a dog, nothing. He just lived next door to the guy who had Onyx, and he wanted to come and thank us for training Onyx and making him a friendly dog. And that was through the dog's stomach, right? We didn't use, I don't know that we even used any aggression. I mean, any correction. I don't think we used any correction on that dog. If I'm, Aldo, maybe if you see this, if you could comment, I don't recall, but I don't think any corrections were used on that dog. I think it was only food-based training through the dog's stomach, and we found success. They're like men, right? The best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Same thing. It's the best way to calm a dog who's aggressive is through his stomach. Loose leash is power. Emotions run down the leash. Exactly, Gina. Thank you. Yeah. In regard to Heather's dog and the leash aggression, a leash can be powerful in the sense that it allows you to control your dog, but it could also be the thing that causes you the most problems. And a lot of people do not know that. I discovered that way back in police dog training days, and not a lot of people were talking about it, but it was an important thing that just kind of hit me one day. Like, I think the leash is causing our problem. Take the leash. This is one of these days, right? I'm sitting there going, I'm going to take the leash off the dog, and now walk. And I was like walking at a perfect heel. Put the leash back on. The dog was pulling the guy on the leash. I said, take the dog back off leash. The dog went back on the heel. I said, walk forward. Dog was walking. I said, stop, and tell the dog and have the dog sit. And the dog sits. Put the leash on the dog. Walk forward. Tell the dog to sit. Dog won't sit. Take the leash off. The leash is causing us our problems. What are we doing wrong? Like, what are you doing wrong? And then we can blame it on the handler. You're an idiot with your leash, right? Police dog training is completely different. I talk to police dog handlers completely different than I did in my pet dog trainers. If you're ever around me, the police dog trainers will tell you two different customers. Hey, dumb shit. Get your dog. Get over here. Hey, hi, how are you? Yes. Can you bring your dog over here? Oh, I know. Bring your dog over here. Okay, sit. Two different manners in teaching. It worked. All right. Sorry, I don't mean to be cussing. I should not cuss because I don't know if you have kids in your car if you're watching this. All right. Some aggression can be reduced or exterminated, but never forgotten. What I mean by this is that you want to understand the dog you got. All right. You have the dog you have. This is one thing that's really important, that you've decided that to buy this dog, adopt this dog, take possession of this dog, make this dog part of your family. And now you have that dog. All right. So there are things that you will discover along the way that your dog has issues, right? Of some sort. Every dog has an issue for the most part. The dogs that don't, I hate those dogs because they never have made us any money. Dogs that are perfect have never made Falco Canine Academy any money. So I don't like those kinds of dogs. I like dogs that have problems. So those dogs that have problems, you must always know that that kind of exists in them. And if you let up, if you change your routine, if you don't keep it in mind that you could go back to that problem, then you are going to end up going back to that problem. So understand, especially in aggression, is that if we've helped you or you've solved your solution with your dog's aggression, remember that aggression little peanut of a part that's in their brain is over. It's just now kind of dormant. It's just now just kind of sitting there. And I tell you this for your safety, for your legal liability safety, and for safety of any children that may come into your life, whether you have no children now, but maybe get pregnant and have a child and that dog is still there, or you're the parents of older children who now have grandchildren that are coming to your house, that if you've ever had a dog aggression and you fixed it through training, never forget. Never forget. You can forgive, but never forget. Never forget that dog had that aggression issue because it is still there. And I would tell you that rarely, if ever, have we removed aggression and it's now gone. Right? I can never tell you that. In all the hundreds and maybe even thousands of dogs I've trained all throughout the world. I've trained dogs in Europe. I've trained dogs in South America. I've trained dogs on islands like Puerto Rico and in all these different places, Canada. And the only reason I'm telling you that is because it's all the same. Nothing's different. What you have is what you have. And if there's aggression, just know that the aggression is always there. It's always in the brain, always in the behavior, always in the DNA, always in the genetics. And it is there. And if you forget, if you let down your guard and suddenly, 3 years after fixing aggression, you now have this grandchild who's now, able to walk and grab things, pull the dog's tail, the ears and that kind of stuff. That little bit of aggression that it used to have is now going to come back, and it's going to come back very strong. I'm just telling you, never forget and think because this dog who was once aggressive is now done. And now you can leave your 3-year-old child alone for a minute in a room with the dog and then go and work on the computer. I don't do that. If you have a dog that's ever shown any signs of aggression, I'm telling you, I'm going to say it one more time. I know I'm going to beat up this point in regard to this point. Some aggression can be reduced or exterminated, but never forgotten. Right? I use exterminated only because in our minds, we think that it's exterminated, right? We've not seen it in years. That aggression that the dog used to have, we've not seen in 4, 5, 6 years. I'm telling you, it's still there. It's still there. It's just that the dog hasn't been put in that position to fail. Because in most cases, the reason the dog doesn't show that aggression, and the reasons why the dog shows obedience, the reason the dog shows respect to you is because you've trained the dog to show you respect. You've trained the dog to be obedient. And as long as those parameters are maintained the same, the dog will be obedient. The dog will be nice. But the minute that those parameters are not present, there is a really good chance that not only will the disobedience come back, but also will the aggression. All right, because now the dog's dealing with a different human being. The human being they're dealing with now, they have no respect for. They have no love for. They could care less. And now that little person, has now said, sit, Ubu, sit. And I go, screw you, right, and bites, right? Would never do that to you. You've not seen it in years because the dog respects you and loves you. Did I beat up that point enough to make sure that you understand about aggression? Hope that I did. That's really important. And that's one thing that we always have to make sure and tell our customers. Loosely says power emotions. I am back. I'm back. All right, Larry. All right. So let's get, okay. So I hope that I addressed some things there. And it was important. These were some of the discussions that I had with some of these neighbors, and then the gas station one. And then I was in a restaurant or something like that. And I was backing in and they saw my tailgate and they were talking about all this aggression stuff. And so that leads to this next one, which was part of a discussion I had with somebody who had a dog that was aggressive towards another dog in the home. And I'm going to touch on this because it's really important that I touch on this, because this is often not talked about and often forgotten and not commonly used as a means of training a dog. And we'll go to a field and say, hey, bring your dog to the field. We're going to teach your dog to do sit, down, stay, come when you call, go to a place, go around a cone and come back. All these kinds of different kinds of things, right? We'll train all this time. And then we say, then go home. And do the same thing. All right, very good. But the one thing that is really important, and this goes all the way back to, and I learned this from Guide Dogs of America. I had to do some work for Guide Dogs of America way back in the day. And one of the most important things that they had their puppy raisers do is that the dog puppies were always on leash in the home, always on leash when they went out, always on leash. And they taught the dog that the leash is simply a means of communication between the human and the dog. And this was really important because you wanted the dog to understand not to poop in the house, not to become aggressive, not to jump on the couch, not to eat things it wasn't supposed to eat, not to run out the front door and all that kind of stuff. What was the best way to teach that? By being in the home with the dog on the leash. And people go, oh my God, that's a pain in the ass. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you right now that one of the solutions that I had for some of the people, one of the people, which was my neighbor, about their dog that was becoming aggressive towards another dog, is that, well, the one thing you can do to begin to teach the dog to stop that habit. And there was a lot of other discussion. Again, I can go, there's a whole another 2 hours I can go on this thing about the discussion we had, but the end solution for the time being, so that they finally figure out what this was happening. And again, this is a great solution for that, or a great way of finding this out, is that have the dog attach you when you're home. If you could go be the wife for a little while, then the husband for a little while, that the dog is always on leash inside the house. I know that seems like a pain in the ass, but I'm telling you, it's a very powerful way to create new habits and extinguish bad habits. It's because you're always there and you're always present. The dog doesn't have an opportunity to be bad. The dog is more likely to be good. And now you're going to develop a habit of when the doorbell rings. I'm going to use this as an example, and you're sitting at the computer with your dog attached to you, either on your belt or to your chair, and that bell rings, right? You're there immediately to tell the dog to sit, to shut his trap, and to wait. The dog, you and the dog are at that chair, right? The doorbell rang, ding dong, sit. And you're out there, wait. The dog is now sitting and being quiet. You now then walk towards the front door. The dog goes lunging out. You then turn around and go back to the chair. Right? Like, oh shit, I want to go towards the front door. And now you walk towards the dog comes back, right? And shows, stops barking and showing aggression. You begin to walk to the way. I'll be right there. Give me 1 second. And then you're walking towards the door, right? And do you see how you can force the dog to not be pulling on the leash, to not be aggressive until you get to the front door? And people, well, that will take me forever to get to the front door with this dog. Well, no, not if you teach good, sound, basic parameters for obedience. You pre-train the sit, you pre-train the heel, you pre-train a lot of the stuff before you get into this situation, right? The brains, now you start going to your sit and stay, your heel, your about turns, and now you're doing that from the chair. I have a chair right over to my right. That's where my desk and my computer is. The front door there. You're now going to use that sit, heel, about turn, obedience program as you're going from that chair to the front door with the once aggressive doorbell dog that you had, but now you're getting obedience all the way there. Well, how does that help? How does that work? Well, you're going to do that for a long period of time. You're going to even have people, hey, neighbor, you get on your phone, get on your cell phone. Hey, neighbor, could you do me a favor? Could you come to my house, ring my doorbell? I'll bring you beer later on for ringing my doorbell. What do you mean ring your doorbell? Just come over and ring my doorbell. You don't even have to come in. I just need you to come ring my doorbell. Okay. Especially during the pandemic, everybody's home. Call one of your neighbors. Say, hey, come ring the doorbell. The person comes and rings the doorbell. Ding dong. And now you go to the front door. You open the door. Nobody's there, right? You have your dog sit. You look out the front door. Now you reward your dog. What a great dog. Go back to your chair. Now somebody really comes, UPS guy, FedEx guy, doorbell rings. Now you walk to the front door. And now you see each time you go there, the dog stops becoming aggressive. The dog knows that if it does, you're going to do an about turn. You're going to make the dog sit there. I don't want to sit. I don't want to do about turn. I just want to go to the front door, see who's there. The dog shuts his trap or her trap. The dog now walks with you at a heel to the front door. The dog sits while you open the door. The door opens. The dog doesn't get from sit because every time he does, you put the dog back into a sit. And now you're able to handle the signing for the UPS stuff or whatever it is and say hi. And now the dog doesn't get up. How does that happen? Because of repetition, control. The dog doesn't have any opportunity of making a mistake because the moment you take your dog off the leash and the doorbell rings, now the dog goes to the front door and scratches the front door. and now you're trying to wrestle with the dog at the front door. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's a very long explanation, but this thing right here, tethering, is what it's called. You've tethered your dog to you for a period of time until you've solved that problem. And you don't, as soon as it works for the first time, you don't end it, right? You continue for a little while after the dog has success. So you have repetition of success, and then the dog can become untethered at some point. You've broken the habit of becoming aggressive at the doorbell. You've broken the habit of running and scratching the front door, showing aggression at the front door over repetition of not allowing the dog to fail, right? You've not allowed the dog to fail. And now you take steps that when the dog fails now, then you begin to develop some routines for that too. And that's how you solve many problems. Potty training can be solved this way. Counter surfing can be solved this way. A lot, being on the couch can be solved. A lot of things can be solved by having your dog on leash in the house. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes. But is it a pain in the ass that you have to replace a pillow on your couch every 2 weeks because the dog destroys it? Is it a pain in the ass to replace the front door or repaint the front door because your dog has scratched it so bad that it looks hideous? Is it a pain in the ass when your dog bites somebody because you didn't take the time to inconvenience yourself for the dog that you supposedly love, and now he's bitten somebody, and now you are being reported to animal control, and now they're considering whether or not you should put your dog to sleep? Is that more of an inconvenience, or is it less of an inconvenience to have your dog tethered to you for a period of time until you solve that problem? I'm telling you that it's less of an inconvenience to tether your dog and have it on. I dated a woman who became my wife later on. This wasn't one of the red flags. Who she had her dog tethered to her every time we were on a date, when we went someplace, and when couldn't, the dog was in a crate or in a kennel, and then when the dog was out of the crate or kennel, the dog was tethered to her. That's just how it worked. And the dog was fantastic. Dog went on to be a service dog for the blind. The dog lived a very long time with the blind person until the dog got really old, and then she ended up with the dog later on, which was kind of funny. But the dog ended up having a fantastic life as a guide dog for somebody that was blind, and it all started with tethering at a very young age. And the dog never had any problems. The dog was successful. The dog was fantastic, and I can't remember what ended up happening. Something happened. The dog got cut, and they had to replace the dog. So she ended up getting the dog for a period of time, and then the dog ended up passing away of old age. So I hope this has been helpful. I thought that it was a good time to come on after just a repetition of people of aggressive dogs coming to me and having the very same discussion I've just had with you about many of the dogs. I hope it's been helpful. And I didn't get too crazy there with a couple of my stories, but I think they're relevant quite often. And if I can use a story to create a picture in your mind so that you remember it, that's what I try to do so that you can remember it. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Unless anybody has any other questions or concerns or what have you, that is my spiel. If you like this, please send it out. If you want to contact us, hey, Gina, I don't know if you're still on or not, put the website that people can contact us and talk to you or your assistant. If you can do that, if you're still watching, put that in the comments. And then what I will do is I'll copy it and re-put in the comments, because you're probably only watching on one of the Facebook pages. Lola, hey Kim, nice to see you. Lola, there's a great, speaking of aggressive dogs, Lola ended up being a fantastic peanut detection dog. We ended up on television with this dog on National Geographic or Nat Geo Wild. I forget which one of those, on a show called Showdown of the Unbeatables. That's the fastest I remember the name of the show. Kim and I and Kendall ended up on a television show called Showdown of the Unbeatables, where this dog that's a peanut detection dog was challenged by a power washer, and we won. Well, Lola won. We happen to be the humans in charge of Lola. And Lola did a fantastic job. And we had a great time. I'm waiting for Gina. I'm not sure if Gina's still on. Hold on. I want to National Geographic. Awesome. Here, hold on one second. The right one. Oh man. It's just typed different. There we go. I got it. Hold on. Stand by. It is coming. I'll get it up there. Hold on. Stand by. Where is it at? Where is it at? Oh man, look at so wow. Sorry, got a lot of stuff popping up here. A lot about Falco Canine Academy, a lot about me, but not what I'm looking for. Where is it? Hold on. Gina, are you there? Put the URL in there. I'm not sure. Stand by. I'm going to get in there. Okay. There's a new dog company who stole the name Falco Canine and is using it, and it keeps popping up. That's the problem I'm having right now. Just so you know, it's not that I've gone crazy. I'm just going to tell you that. I'm not trying to tell you. I'm just telling you that this is. Wow. Okay, I thought so. So things are just spelled out differently. But yeah, this guy in Boston. You can't. You know what? That's the funny about this canine world is that you would think people would just want to do their own thing, right? They develop your own name, your own business name, and then I've had this happen. This isn't the only time. I had somebody used to work for me. They started a company in San Diego, thought I would never find out about it. A Yellow Page ad came out. Somebody sent me the entire Yellow Pages and had a bookmark and said, open this up, and open it up. And pictures of all my dog training and me are in this Yellow Page ad. And police officers that I trained and the dogs that I trained are in this full page Yellow Page ad. And formerly Falco Canine Academy, as if Falco Canine Academy didn't exist any longer, and her name and her dog training. But it was pictures of our training in the Yellow Page ad. That's not the only time. Again, this happened more than I've had trainers who were working for me that were in my office. I used to have a giant warehouse where it was an indoor training facility and had A-frames and jumps and teeter-totters, had all kinds of stuff in there, television sets, had all kinds of stuff, right? And then I was working as a police officer, so I was working 3 days a week as a police officer. Well, apparently she had convinced everybody that she was the owner of Falco Canine Academy, and I worked for her. And when I would come in, people would go, well, who are you? Well, you work for this lady. I'm not going to say her name, but there's some shenanigans in the dog training world. It is not a kosher thing. This canine world. But anyway, I just typed in Falco Canine, and this place in Boston shows up. Like, why would you not just want to be your own person? Why do you want to be me, or why do you want to be Gina, or why do you want to be? Just be you. Call it something else, you dipwit. And you did a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kim, I love you. I love you, Kim, and Kendall, and Lola, and your whole family. All right, my friends, I love you. And I hope this was good for you and it was helpful in some manner. In the end, go to the website that I just put into the comments. Click on that, get the phone number, call, and contact us to find out how we can help you. That would be awesome. And we'll do that. All right. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Take care. Bye.